Well, this week is Hurricane Preparedness Week, and whether you're new to South Florida or may need a reminder, we want to make sure that you have everything you need to know ahead of hurricane season.
Yeah, it's kind of like a refresher course, right?
Yeah.
This morning we have team coverage with our next weather meteorologist, Zach Gonzalez, and our guest, local State Farm agent, Kenya McCarty. Kenya, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good. So walk us through the checklist for hurricane preparedness.
So one of the things that I would focus on first is making sure that you have coverage, making sure your payment is up to date. A lot of folks pay through their mortgage company, but however, you want to sometimes call directly to the insurance company to make sure that the coverage is valid.
About our coverage. Let's get right to it. What is it specifically that you need to have? Is it flood insurance? What are the details so that when a hurricane does hit, you're not left with no coverage?
Right. So with hurricane coverage and with flood, they're two separate things. The windstorm is something that is driven by the wind and pierces your windows, or it comes through the roof. Flood is a different deal, and we just dealt with that, where the water actually rushes through the doors, under the doors, or under parts of your home. The flood is separate because that coverage, you have to have that to trigger anything that that you need as far as your home, making sure that the water that runs under there.
But that's harder to get,
water.
Isn't it? And more expensive?
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually not as expensive as you think. They have flood determination zones that are drawn up.
Okay.
And so with those zones, they determine the price for you. So if you're in a flood zone, you probably would pay a little bit more, but they have preferred options as well.
And how about so we know, a hurricane affects your home, the roof, et cetera, but how about what's inside your home? The property you have inside, does that cover as well, or is that different?
Yeah, no, that's also covered as well. If there's a storm that happens and you have an opening, all of the water damage from that would be covered under your current hurricane policy.
Okay, but when a storm is coming, right, that's not the time to start looking at your policy, because you need to do this well in advance, because isn't there a deadline for making changes?
Yeah, and so you want to make sure that those changes are made before the season starts in June 1. There are some policies that won't allow you to make changes at all during hurricane season. So you definitely want to take a look at that paperwork before it starts and make sure that you made any deductible changes. Normally, you can do that probably once a year.
All right, Kenya McCarty, thanks so much for your information.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Great tips there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Makes you want to go look at the policy, doesn't it?
You have to.
And you're new to South Florida, so get on it, my friend.
Well, I'm a renter at the moment, so I do have renter's insurance, so hopefully that's enough.
Which is also very important,
yeah.
If you are renting. Yeah.
That was great advice, though. And we're taking a look at hurricane season, ladies, starting in just a few weeks. It's hard to wrap your mind around that, but yeah, June 1st, that is when hurricane season officially begins. And we take a look, and when we see the most active months tend to be around August, September, October, with the peak being September 10th. So now is not only the time to make sure that you have the proper insurance coverage for your home, depending on whether you do live in a flood zone or not, but we just saw what happened in Fort Lauderdale with that historic flooding. So I think it's a good idea for everyone, if possible, to have that flood insurance. And then hurricane season doesn't end until the end of November. But we're talking about Hurricane Preparedness Week, and I'm actually working on a segment that'll air during a hurricane special. And the important supplies that you also need to start to think about and assemble at home, including enough water, at least 1 gallon of drinking water per person for at least 3 to 5 days, non-perishable packaged and canned foods, keeping that gas tank full, battery-powered radio, hand crank radio, extra batteries, phone chargers, medication, prescriptions, cash on hand, and then there's other items that you want to consider and include a first aid kit, as well as a whistle to signal for help, local maps, and remember to place the insurance documents, those important papers such as birth certificates, IDs, your utility bill, in a waterproof container. I was actually talking to Betty about this the other day. So these are all things that you need to keep in mind and already start preparing for before hurricane season begins.